All right, it's 2026. Welcome back to What's Happening Season 3, Episode 3, the only place where car launches move faster than Bombay traffic. This month feels less like an auto market and more like a royal rumble. You've got Maruti Suzuki, which finally enters the EV sector. You've got Toyota closely following Maruti, and then Tata Motors resurrecting childhood nostalgia. Mahindra and Mahindra suddenly look no longer like an EV startup, but a formidable force in the Indian EV industry. And in the end, we try to bust some EV myths. Manish, this is no longer should you buy an EV? This is which future are you buying into?
Very much so. So it's great to be back here after many months. I think it's been 6 months since the last episode. But since then, many things have happened, and we're going to try to capture as much as we can of the latest news.
Yeah, it seems a bit weird because, up to now it was all about the Tesla and all, the Kia EV6, and suddenly we're coming down to brass tacks of Bharat and all the cars that are going to move India. So first cab off the rank, the big daddy of the Indian automotive market, 60% market share. They move the country, Maruti Suzuki. Finally coming to the party.
Finally, the e-Vitara is, I think it was formally launched about a week ago. And as we are recording this, just an hour ago on X, they announced the pricing of the e-Vitara. I think a week ago, I saw someone saying that they're pricing at 25 lakhs and everyone was like, oh, that's dead on arrival. Because 25 lakhs e-Vitara, definitely dead on arrival. But I think the pricing they just announced is around 11 lakhs on road, or probably some additional fees. And then it's a battery as a service option, and they're pricing it at 4 rupees a kilometer. Wow. So that's what they're pricing it now. I'm sure they will announce the full pricing if you want to buy the battery outright, probably maybe for 2-3 lakhs. But even at that price point of 11 plus 3 lakhs, let's say all in, not bad, 14 lakhs for the e-Vitara. Still a little pricey for typical Marutis, but at least it puts them in the ball game of potentially taking this to the next level.
Well, we did the chat GPT on the price of the ICE variant of the Vitara, and it turned out at 12 lakhs to 25 lakhs. And here you've got in the exact same range an EV variant. What's interesting is even if you bought the battery, right, it'll be 2-3 lakhs more, which makes it about 15-16 lakhs. But at 15-16 lakhs, the cost savings of driving an electric car versus an ICE car, it's almost a no-brainer. So now it just comes down to the quality of the ride and whether it's really a Vitara or not.
Well, yeah, or more importantly, like you said, they're the big daddy. They own 60-70% market share, and are they able to move the mind shift of customers from diesel petrol into the EV space? And I think that's the big thing. That's what everyone's been waiting for, Maruti to launch something, and guess what? They have finally launched it. And is it really going to change the mindset of the average Indian consumer of looking at EVs? And I think it will, because you see it on the logistics side, people are moving towards EVs because of the cost. And, we both have EVs, and we can see the cost benefit of once you get past the CapEx and you look at the operational expense, it's actually really amazing.
So we were at the actual internal launch of the e-Vitara maybe 8 weeks ago that Maruti did in Delhi. And clearly the statement was electrification is arriving in India now. So Maruti clearly believes that everything else up to now was a pilot by everybody else, and that Maruti is going to come and move that market. Yeah. So I fully anticipate this is not a toe dipping exercise. This is just the learning bit before a majority of their range, like the Tata range, is also offered in the electric variant. So I think the world of electrification is going to change, and that 4% penetration that you see in the overall vehicle base being electrified in India today is going to change rapidly over the next 3-4 years. This is clearly a space to watch.
No, definitely. And I actually think, it's not talked about much, but Maruti has got a lot of technology from Suzuki. And if you think about Suzuki, they don't have much happening in the EV space as far as, components. And I think this is their real push to say, we need to be really in the EV space, whether it's the brand or the subcomponents. And I think they're really making sure that this launch is super successful so that they can provide parts to other potential manufacturers as well.
Yeah, I'm going to segue on that because you're absolutely right. The two areas where they will be able to be protected are India and Japan for the electrification push, right? Because all the other markets are already BYD and Geely dominated, whether it's Europe, Latin America, or anywhere else. So this is the place to get that scale. Yep. Japan was way behind China on electrification. They almost got lost with hydrogen. Toyota is still there, as we'll talk about in a bit, and why they've dovetailed with Maruti. So it'll be interesting to watch what the lessons from India are to take back to Japan and other parts of the world. world.
Very much so.
So then, talking about Toyota, now that's an interesting car company. Very slow to make any changes. I was thinking of that 1970s song about Ford perseveres in better ideas, but everybody drives Toyotas. So, and Chrysler fights for survival. So Toyota now is a company that bet on hydrogen. Yet in India, they've dovetailed with the e-Vitara and the Maruti Suzuki, and they have a little twin product.
The e-Bella, which is actually which is even more surprising from Toyota, because they really started the revolution with the Toyota Prius, and
That's
for
true.
them to kind of say, hey, let's just piggyback on what's already being done. A little surprising, but I feel for them, maybe they're dipping their toes in the Indian market this way, whereas Maruti is going full on with Suzuki. And will people pay for the additional name badge of Toyota? I think so. It's been happening quite some time. They've done that with other cars between the platform sharing of the Marutis with Toyota, and it's happened before, and I think it'll continue happening, and I think they'll do well.
So as a car expert, this is the bit I really am trying to understand. I would pay the premium for Toyota because even a 20-year-old Toyota in Bombay today, I could get into it and I could drive it all the way to Chennai and have absolutely no breakdown. Yet when that car is being made by another company badged to Toyota, how do they demand that premium? I've never understood this twinning concept. It works. I see it all around the world where other cars made by other people are badged by Toyota or Suzuki. But how do you understand that concept?
I think part of it has to do with after-sales support. If you have to take your car to a Toyota dealer versus a Maruti dealer, there's a very big difference between the two. And, just the level, because, you are paying a little bit extra for the Toyota. So there's a little bit more margin at Toyota for them to kind of say, okay, we're sorry that this happened for you. We'll get it fixed right away. And that's really what happens. That's that whole double badging everywhere. And it's because you're paying more, so you're expecting better servicing.
I'm laughing because I was thinking I wish my Kia EV6 was Toyota badged because my service center knows nothing about the car every time it comes in.
Let's not turn this into a Kia support group session because we have many things we could discuss, but let's not do that.
So staying on the Toyota Urban Cruiser e-Bella for just one more moment, no frunk.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, frunk, of course, we know stands for front trunk, and that basically means when you pop the hood, there is no space to put anything in it. So it has probably a lot of the electricals in there, the 12-volt battery, but they've not made any space to store anything in the front of the car. And I obviously got very popularized with the Tesla. They've always had the frunk, and then of course, EV6, Kias, Ioniq 5, all of them have that frunk. To some extent, not as spacious as the Tesla, because the Teslas are really built from the ground up to be, EVs. So their space in the front is actually quite amazing. I think the other cars kind of say, oh, people don't really use it, so let's use that for other things. And the e-Bella is a perfect example of no one's going to use the front trunk, so we'll use it for everything else.
Excellent. So you mentioned the word Tesla. We have to have this segue. When we did the show in September, you had just driven by the showroom. It was the first car. They had announced the model. They announced the pricing. 6 months later, where are we?
Sales have not been great. No. I think they had talked about doing about 3,000 units.
Yep.
I think they're around 250 to 300 units. I actually heard someone saying that they're offering discounts because they're not doing well, which is not surprising because had they launched this car maybe 3 years ago, they would have sold all 3,000. The problem is now you're competing against the EV6, you're competing against the Sea Lion, and both of those cars are now much cheaper than the Tesla.
And better.
And they're much better on the interior side. So the only thing that really Tesla has going for it is its software stack. Amazing. But I think most people don't get that software stack because most of them are driver driven and you're sitting in the back. So it doesn't make sense. Really doesn't make sense. Very few people are, I'm probably one of the few people that actually drives their EV6 in the day. And I think most people don't. They probably have it driven by the driver. And on the Tesla, same thing, so it doesn't really make sense. And so, they're not doing great. Although I do see quite a few of them on the road, but when I see them, of course, it's always a driver driving the car.
So coming to the other big daddy then of the Indian automotive world, we had Maruti Suzuki in the car world, but then there is a big commercial world of Tatas. and they have also made a big foray, redefine themselves in the electric passenger car world with all the launches that they had. We had the first Nexon, the next generation Nexon. Since then, they went to the Punch and many other cars. And now they've brought back something that a lot of people my age had an emotional cord attached to from when they were growing up. And that, of course, was the Tata Sierra. It was the Tata Mobile built up like a three-door glass tank. And they brought it back, but a much smaller version of the Tata Sierra, not 3 doors, but 5 doors, almost a Creta range, meant to be a Creta killer. I've seen a lot of yellow ones on the road. They're going to launch an ICE version as well as an EV version, but not a lot of people are impressed with how it looks in the back. Apparently, the bum looks better in the picture rather than on the road.
That's what I hear. So they say it's not as great in person as online or seeing in print media.
I do have to say, one of my close friends, Ajay, who we have a beer with, was one of the chief designers of this car. He's very proud of it, and we are very proud of it too. It actually looks good. I think that it's got a lot of promise. It's got a lot of zest, a lot of excitement, and I hope they get to achieve what they wanted to. Although I'm not sure about that lounge seating concept.
I think they're trying to push the envelope, do something different. So that's the idea. But like I think you said, that design is iconic. You know, I remember when I'd come to India, my cousins had that car, and they always used to talk about it and get in with like great pleasure. Like, wow, look at this car and look at the glass. And I'm like, okay, fine. But so I can understand where they're coming from and why they would want to, bring that back. So it is definitely iconic in nature.
So then the data of Bharat and Mahindra, I'm not sure if it was in the last show or the one after, we talked about the new Mahindra 6 and the 9. We bought the Mahindra 9, which I thought was an amazing car when we drove it. It's a great car up front, much like the Tesla. It's beautiful up front, but the rear seat, I think Aditya here comes to Bombay for this show in the Mahindra 9. He goes back with a bit of a backache. I think the next versions will address it. The 6 is amazing. It feels like it'll be an amazing Uber in Australia or Dubai. It's a fantastic fun car to drive, but they're moving on from there too. And the data is showing that Mahindra is somebody to watch because they captured the excitement of the buyers.
No, definitely. I think that's, I'm pretty sure they've probably had their design studio, Brennan and Farina, design some of those cars. And, when I see that BE6 in the rearview mirror, I'm always like, oh my God, what is that? And then, of course, I've seen that car literally 50 times. And every time I'm like, what is that car? I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. It's the BE6. I mean, I hate to say it, and I'm sure my friends that have these cars are going to get pissed, but it is kind of like the baby Urus, and of course, much cheaper. But it has got that Urus look, Urus lines. And if you see the one in that, bright orange, I've seen a couple of Uruses in that orange in the same color on the BE6, and they look, very similar to the lines. But I think overall they've done a great job in kind of pushing the envelope on the design, really out there. Some people really don't like it. It's very polarizing, but the ones that love it, I can see them all over the place.
A bit like the Tesla truck, I guess, a bit polarizing.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's much softer in the lines than a Cybertruck, but definitely different than what you would see as a normal, let's say the Nexon or anything else like that.
Have you driven one of the main?
I have. I've driven the 6E, and I loved it when I drove it. It did have a couple softer issues when they first launched, and of course that will definitely get fixed. Yeah. But it's definitely a great car. When you sit in that, you definitely feel like you've got that fighter cockpit feeling. The way they've designed everything, it's a great car. And I've always said Mahindra has a lot of the pieces, and I'm glad to see that they're kind of putting it together and really going after that market. So I think, and the numbers speak for it.
Yeah.
You can see the numbers have definitely gone up, and because they've got a great product offering.
386% apparently. Yeah.
You can't complain.
So Manish, I thought, there's many myths about the EV world, and they still exist. Some of them are 101, some of them we're now starting to delve into to bust. Why don't we do a rapid fire section just to try and bust some EV myths? Yeah.
All right.
Super. So the first one is EVs don't have enough range. And I'd say if your EV's out of range in the city, you probably forgot to charge it, like your phone.
I mean, I laugh because we both have a car that's got, I think, 450 kilometers when you fully charge it, 500 kilometers. And people ask me, is that enough? To be honest with you, I don't think I've ever driven that car in a single stretch more than 120 kilometers. So I think about range anxiety. I just don't have it because I don't drive it. like that. I'm sure some people that say they want to go on a spontaneous road trip to, let's say, Goa, probably not happening, but that's probably a very small percentage. In fact, I think the furthest that I drive my EV6 is actually to your office in Pune, in Pimpri Chinchwad. And I go there so I can do a fast charge. Yeah.
You know, so this interesting. MG's data showed that most Indians drive less than 40 kilometers a day, right? And so you should be able to charge in your house at night. And yet we still buy cars for a 100% use case when the outlying 5%, as you described, Goa, can be done in another way, right? 95% of your usage is 40 kilometers. You can actually buy a 150 kilometer range battery and be completely okay with it. But most people buy that 500 kilometer range for that 5% use case.
I agree. And, you know, even that data, I think, is flawed. 40 kilometers a day, that is probably everywhere outside Bombay.
Yeah.
Because if you're in Bombay, you're not driving that much.
Yeah.
You know, you're probably maybe doing 15, 20 kilometers max.
Yeah.
But this is also one of the largest car markets. So, you know, you're really talking about probably Delhi, tier 2 cities, things like that, where you're probably going great distances.
Yeah.
But yeah. I hear that also with, I hear that they don't have a lot of space for luggage and suitcases. Thing is, how many times are you going to the airport? How many times are you going with all of that luggage somewhere out of town? Probably not. Again, it's that, everyone's buying it for that 100% usage, and it's only going to happen maybe once or twice a year.
True. So the second myth is there are not enough public chargers, fast chargers anywhere. And it seems to me that people worry about public chargers like they worry about public toilets, but you end up using the ones at home, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are more and more coming up, and I think part of that is, people are using these cars more and more. So there are more and more public chargers. I mean, I think before it used to be a big thing when someone is launching a fast charger in Bombay. Now I don't even care because I know there's going to be so many of them. If I go to BKC, I think there's at least 10, 15 locations that have fast charging. So I don't even think about it. Of course, I still don't use public chargers. I have one at home, but that's because the way I do my daily commutes. But I do feel that, there are a lot of them coming up because there are now with Maruti coming in, there's going to be more and more use of them. And so they will build out the infrastructure for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next one is battery replacement. We've talked about the e-Vitara, we talked about battery as a service, also on the MG Windsor. Yep. Everybody worries about their car. We both used our EV6 now for almost 4 years.
Yep.
And people worry about battery replacement will bankrupt you.
Yeah, I mean, that's when I hear all the time, oh my God, batteries are expensive. Yes, but remember, these cars are like technology, like the iPhones. They just come down in price. And I am sure at some point in 4 years, 5 years, when we have to replace these batteries, potentially there'll be a better option and it'll be a cheaper option. That's just the way technology is.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just the way they go. I mean, I hate to say it. We bought a new car 3 years ago. The depreciation is probably more than 50%. It's much more, but that's just the way cars are. Think of it as an iPhone. The iPhone that you bought 5 years ago, what are you going to get today? Probably next to nothing, because there's a phone that's better, cheaper, quicker, that's available today. And that's what's going to happen with these cars and with the battery packs. So
the next one, I'm looking at you. EVs are only for rich people.
Yeah. That's the reason why you see so many of them on the road,
True.
I think that is just such a funny statement. I don't even know where to begin because you see them everywhere. You see Tata's were the number one selling EV brand up until, BYD showed up or, MG showed up. All these different brands are competing. Of course, Tata still have the number one, but I think the Windsor's doing very well. And that is not just, rich people, it's everyone. I seen use it as a transport. In fact, I was just in Delhi 2 weeks ago and my car that was given by the travel company was an MG Windsor. So a lot of people are using it for transportation. So I don't think it's a rich person. I mean, if you're talking about, let's say the EQS from Mercedes, yes, obviously, but that is very few. Maybe 10 of those cars a month are being sold.
True, absolutely. The next one is one that's actually quite important because I still get it, particularly when I'm in Europe at a show, in Australia for a show, and that is that electricity for EVs comes from coal. So what's the point of this?
Yeah. Okay. So that is definitely very true in India. When people say, are you an environmentalist when you bought your EV6? The answer is definitely not, because in India, unfortunately for us, most of our power plants are, powered by dirty coal. So what's happening is instead of tailpipe emissions, it's happening somewhere else. But the truth is, at some point, all of these cars will be powered by solar panels in the future. May not be, maybe rooftop solar panels, or maybe even on the car. That's really what this is going towards. Is it happening today? Is it happening in 5 years? Maybe 10 years? But that's where everyone is going towards. But unfortunately, in India, we're still dealing with dirty coal. So yes.
But I've got a retort to that, right? Yes, we're dealing with dirty coal, but that coal is being cleaned up a lot better in its emissions than it ever was before. India's done a good job of that. But that argument aside, the truth is you're cutting half the pollution, half the PMIs that come from diesel vehicles on your road, the buses, the trucks, the cars, the taxis that are plying the city roads. So you've got pollution from coal in the generation of the electricity that's powering your house, but then you've got pollution from the ICE vehicle with all the PM, emissions that it has, and you're reducing those. So you're attacking half the pollution anyway. So I think you're still on a winner. You don't get clean air just like that. It's a process.
No, it is definitely it takes process, and you have to start somewhere. So this is one example of, let's start with the electric vehicles, and then at some point these will be solar powered. But even if they're not, let's say they're still continuing with dirty coal, at least the air quality in the area where people live is much better. Yes, where these power plants are, maybe a little bit of an issue, but that is, I think you have to kind of debate, and like you said, it doesn't happen overnight.
Manish, I've had a lot of fun on the show today with you. We've got to do this more often. Hey?
Yes, we do. We shouldn't wait 6 months like we did this one.
Exactly. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. Take care till the next episode.
To the next one.